For years, my quiet cabin at the edge of Pine Ridge Forest had been my sanctuary, a place where the fresh mountain air carried the scent of pine trees, the sound of creeks running over river rocks, and the comforting hum of my honeybees working in their hives. I'd been a beekeeper for a decade, producing some of the richest wildflower honey in the whole county, and selling it at local markets was part of my seasonal routine. Life was peaceful until the Pine Ridge HOA got a new president, Karen Hollowell. She wasn't just a Karen, she was the Karen, the kind who carried a clipboard like it was a weapon and treated the neighborhood like her personal kingdom. At first, she targeted small things, claiming my cabin's rustic paint color was too natural and didn't match her community vision, or insisting that my pickup truck was not appropriately suburban. But she really crossed the line when she discovered my honey. One morning, I stepped outside to check my hives and noticed something wrong. The shed door stood wide open. Boxes were overturned, and jars of fresh honey were missing. At first, I thought maybe an animal had wandered in, but the muddy footprints on the floor told another story: two-legged footprints. Later that day, I got a smug text from Karen herself, boasting that she had confiscated unauthorized agricultural goods. She actually stole my honey and claimed HOA rules allowed it. She said my bees were unregistered livestock, and she called my honey a community property asset. I was furious, but I didn't want a direct confrontation. Arguing with Karen was like trying to reason with a tornado wearing perfume. I needed proof, leverage, and a plan. And as the forest rustled behind me, I realized something she didn't. Pine Ridge wasn't just home to bees. It was home to black bears, and this time of year, late summer, they were hungry, active, and had excellent noses for anything sweet. If Karen wanted my honey so badly, I was more than happy to let her have the full experience of dealing with what came after. All I had to do was set things in motion and sit back while nature did exactly what nature does best. The idea came to me while I was restacking my empty honey frames and muttering to myself about how someone like Karen ever got into a leadership position. As I worked, I remembered something my grandfather had told me years ago while teaching me beekeeping. A bear can smell honey from 20 miles away, and once it finds a source, it keeps coming back. If Karen had taken a few jars, then she had unknowingly created a very enticing beacon for the local bears. And if she stored the honey in her garage, which she definitely would because she hoarded everything important to the HO, and then it was only a matter of time before the forest's biggest sugar seekers paid her a welcome visit. The brilliance of the plan wasn't that I had to lure the bears, I simply needed to make sure the path to Karen's property remained unmistakable. I cleaned up the shed, scattering a bit of honeycomb on the forest side where bears usually traveled. Then, very accidentally, I left a few honey-drizzled frames in my driveway to strengthen the scent trail in the direction of her property line. It wasn't malicious. It wasn't dangerous. It was just nature doing what nature naturally did. And the best part? I didn't break a single rule. Meanwhile, Karen continued flaunting her power like she had been elected mayor of Pine Ridge, rather than HOA president of just 30 homes. She strutted around the community, clutching my honey jars like trophies, bragging to neighbors that she was enforcing agricultural compliance laws, whatever that meant. She even posed with a jar for the HOA newsletter. The audacity was unreal. I stayed quiet though, calm, patient. When she stopped by to give me an official warning, I simply smiled and waved as if I hadn't noticed she'd stolen my livelihood. She walked away looking satisfied, confident she had crushed another homeowner under her regulations. What she didn't notice was how unusually active the forest was becoming. The scattering of paw prints near the tree-lined broken foliage, the unmistakable deep tracks leading toward civilization. The bears were on the move on. They were following the scent she had proudly dragged into her garage. I sat on my porch that evening, sipping tea, listening to the forest come alive, and waited for nature to deliver justice. Unlike HOA laws, forest law was ancient, wild, and absolutely fair. 2 nights later, just past midnight, the peaceful stillness of Pine Ridge was shattered by a chorus of unholy screeching. At first, I thought it was just another HOA patrol golf cart hitting a trash can. Karen had recently armed them with reflective vests and walkie-talkies, turning them into a wannabe neighborhood SWAT team. But this sound was far more frantic. It was followed by loud banging, the unmistakable crash of metal shelving collapsing, and then the deep guttural grunts that could only belong to one creature: bears. Big ones. I stepped onto my porch wearing my robe, pretending to be confused and freshly woken up, even though I had been sitting there for an hour waiting for the show. Down the street, lights flicked on, one by one, like a growing constellation of sleepy neighbors trying to understand the chaos. Then Karen's voice pierced the night. Someone help me. They're in my garage, not just near her garage. In her garage, black bears had ripped the door clean off the hinges, following the powerful scent of honey she had so proudly confiscated. From what I later learned, there were 3 of them, a mother bear and 2 older cubs. They weren't aggressive, just hungry and excited, knocking over paint cans, pushing aside storage bins, tearing into cardboard boxes. But to Karen, it must have felt like a biblical plague. She ran around in circles calling the sheriff, the HOA, security team, animal control, and possibly even the governor. I walked over slowly, Joining the cluster of neighbors gathering by the sidewalk, everyone stood wide-eyed, watching the spectacle, while Karen shrieked like the world was ending. She pointed at me the moment she saw me. "This is your fault," she screeched, breathless and panicked. "Your bees caused this." I raised an eyebrow, keeping my voice calm. "Actually, Karen, the bears seem very interested in your garage." The neighbors murmured in agreement. Someone whispered, "Wait, why, does her garage smell like honey?" Another asked, "Where'd she get all those jars?" And just like that, the truth she had tried to hide began unraveling in front of everyone. When animal control finally arrived, the bears had already finished their feast and wandered back into the woods, full and content. The garage, however, looked like a honey-soaked demolition zone. Karen kept ranting, waving what remained of a broken jar, insisting she had taken the honey for the good of the community, but no one was buying it. Her HOA board members stood silent, embarrassed and furious, not at me, but at her, and that was only the beginning of her downfall. The morning after the bear incident, Karen was a spectacle. Her perfectly styled hair was frizzed into a halo of chaos, her designer blouse streaked with pollen and dirt, and her voice rasped from a night of screaming. She marched door to door trying to spin the story into something heroic, claiming she had saved the community from illegal honey trafficking, but the neighbors weren't interested. They had seen the jars, the mess, the proof that she had not only stolen from me, but hoarded the honey in her garage like some kind of sticky dragon guarding its treasure. The HOA board called an emergency meeting that afternoon. I showed up mostly out of curiosity, but also because I expected fireworks. I wasn't disappointed. The board members sat around the community center table looking grim, while Karen hovered near the front like she still thought she was in charge. They asked her why she had seized property without due process, why she had lied in the HOA newsletter, why she had stored stolen goods on private HOA land, why she had involved the sheriff over her own poor decisions, and most hilariously, why she had written herself a $500 honey citation and then paid it using HOA funds. They voted unanimously to remove her as HOA president, effective immediately. Her clipboard was taken away like a confiscated weapon. As for me, the board offered an apology and officially recognized my beekeeping as not only legal but environmentally beneficial to Pine Ridge. They even approved installation of new bear-assistant trash bins for the neighborhood. Karen stormed out of the meeting red-faced and humiliated, shouting something about running for community governor, whatever that meant. She moved out of Pine Ridge within 2 weeks. Rumor had it she blamed the entire forest for conspiring against her. As for the bears, they stayed away after that night, probably satisfied from their honey banquet and uninterested in returning. The forest returned to normal. My bees continued thriving, and peace finally settled back over Pine Ridge. Every now and then, I sit on my porch with a jar of honey and chuckle, remembering the moment Karen learned the difference between man-made rules and nature's rules. The HOA may write 100 regulations, but if you steal from a beekeeper in bear country, well, you get exactly what you asked for. Nature handled it better than I ever could.